Hi guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Indira, and today I'm here with Megan Davies. She's currently the UK number 9 for the 5k and recently competed at the British Olympic trials in the 1500 metres. In this episode we talk through her journey from swimming and triathlon to running, and a deep dive into her experience in the NCAA system. We talk about what it was like coming back after the NCAA, her decision to stop running, and then what motivated her return, and how she's come back better than ever before. We also talk all things selection, including for the Olympics, and that starts around 1 hour 10, so if you're interested in that, that's where that will be. Okay, as always, please be sure to give the show a rating if you've been enjoying it. This helps give credibility to the podcast so I can keep bringing you guys the guests you want to hear from. Okay, let's get into it. Hi, Megan, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Have you been training this morning or what have you been up to?
No training this morning, Friday, rest
Yeah,
day. I am a rester. I love a rest.
nice.
So yeah, I've just been doing a little bit of work this morning. I went in, I'm just helping out a family that I used to nanny for. I'm just looking after the girls for the next 2 weeks.
Lovely.
Okay.
Okay, and so for anyone who doesn't already know you, can you briefly introduce yourself as an athlete?
Yep, I'm Megan. I run for Sale Harriers Manchester, which is where I grew up. Although it wasn't my first club, I ran for Rosendale Harriers before that. I was born in Scotland, but I've always lived in Manchester. Um, I'm a runner out of just pure accident, really. I'm not sure how many runners there are out there that actually pick to be runners, or if they just I feel like it's the sport that you just fall into. So yeah, I would say it's me.
Nice. And so was there any reason for that change of club and
Um, yeah, so ran at Rosendale. It was quite local to me. It was one of the girls that I used to because I used to swim. I swam along like for a long time before I ran, and I just got picked for like the school cross countries. I think because I was quite aerobic, I was obviously aerobically fit from doing so much swimming. And then one day I was at the cross country, and then I went swimming that evening, and one of the girls that I swam with, her dad came over to my mum and dad and said, "Oh, I saw your Megan at the cross country today. Like, I'm a running coach. Would you like to bring her down to training? And she can join in. We've got a really nice group of girls." So that was when I was in year 8. So yeah, then I started actually run training. Although I say that it was just once a week, and yeah, we were just a bit of a chaotic group of girls that just used to run around, having a great time, really. And yeah, then it was I kind of moved from there because, as girls do, girls just they get catty, don't they? So especially at that sort of difficult teenage age, and things started getting quite difficult in the group and different things. And then I kind of realized that running there wasn't going to be like the best thing for my running, really. I mean, we didn't even have a running track. It was just a cinder track that we were running around on. And I'm fairly sure it wasn't even 400 meters. I'm pretty sure whatever size it wasn't 400. But yeah, so then moved to Sale Harriers because they're such a big club, and they had a lot of groups. So I then moved to be coached by Lisa Davis and Pete Shaw. Um, and they had a girls group there. So yeah.
nice. Okay. And so I guess we might as well just dive into kind of, how you got started with running now. And so in terms of, you say when you started it was sort of once a week. Were you still swimming at that time or?
Yeah, lots of swimming. So I kind of got into running. Yeah, they picked me out at a school they made us do laps and laps and laps of the school playground one day to pick the cross country team. And I think we were in year 3. And I was pretty good because I did so much swimming. And I think at that point, I think I was swimming every day apart from Wednesday.
In
I
year 3?
think maybe not as young as that. I can't really remember, but I was obsessed with swimming. And the funny thing is, I couldn't swim. I hated swimming. I hated water. And then I think for my seventh birthday, mum and dad bought me swimming lessons, and I just loved it, obsessed. Went through all the badges in like under a year, and then I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to swim. So they had to take me down to a club, and then yeah, I was swimming most days. Yeah, so I got picked for the school cross country, and thought it was great because we did running at lunchtime, and we got to go. We had lunch like right at the end of lunch, and I think the dinner ladies just used to feel really sorry for us because we'd just been running, so we always used to get seconds. And I just remember that being like the highlight of my day was getting two school dinners. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how it came. Yeah, that's how it came about. And then I did a bit of cycling. So there's another lad that I went to school with, and his name was Bryn Davies, and which is obviously again Bryn's a very Welsh name, and everyone thought that we were related when I hadn't met us, but Bryn's actually half Chinese. So then people would meet us and be like, okay, yeah, you two are clearly not twins. Um, but he was really sporty, and he did a lot of swimming. So we swam at the same club. We both did the cross countries together. And then his dad was really into cycling. So we got into cycling. We went to the velodrome, did all that kind of stuff. And then that led into some triathlon. So then I did triathlon, I think, until I want to say 16. I think until I did triathlon. Um, so yeah, it was just a whole endurance based sport thing that I did. And yeah, just did running once a week to start with, because swimming was I was obsessed. I just wanted to be a swimmer. Like one of my very first memories of the Olympics is like the 2008 Olympics, where Michael Phelps got his like 8 golds in 8 days. And I remember I was setting alarms in the middle of the night to get up and watch these races because it was obviously in China. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Wow, no, that's really interesting. And I think, first of all, got to capitalize on this golden opportunity. You said that you were obsessed with swimming and loved it. What did you love about it? What can you kind of describe where the passion was coming from? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that one.
Yeah, no, don't know. No idea. Just loved it. Thought it was great. And to be fair, I wasn't even that great at it. I was tiny. I was a real dot when I was in like especially primary school. And I was obviously I was quite weedy as well. Like I didn't have a lot on me. And even now I still have tiny feet and tiny hands. So like swimming was never gonna work. But yeah, don't know, just loved it. And it's so funny. This is gonna sound really sad when I say this, but when I used to swim, because obviously the best thing about running is you get to talk to someone else, don't you? But when you're swimming, you obviously can't talk to anyone. I used to like do commentary in my head as I was swimming, like commentate as if like someone was commentating on like my swimming session and stuff. Yeah,
I love
don't
that.
know.
I love
Yeah,
that. Yeah, you gotta keep things going in your head while you're swimming, I think. Otherwise,
yeah,
that's where madness could lie otherwise.
yeah. Honestly, my parents were so shocked. They were just so because I hated water. And like even now, I have like I'm genuinely terrified of open water. Like even the sea. I don't like the sea. I'm fine if I can stand up, but I'm not a huge fan of the sea, not a huge fan of like lakes and stuff like that, which ended up sort of being the reason I ended up not doing triathlon because open water was a big part. But yeah, no, not a fan of that. So yeah, and I was the same in the swimming pool. Like I wouldn't get in swimming pools, and I'd have the armbands on and the rubber ring on, and I'd put like my toe in, and then I'd be screaming. So when I took to swimming, my mum was like, "What has happened here?" That's a can of
Wow.
worms we weren't expecting.
Yeah, I mean, life's good at throwing the curveballs, that's for sure. And yeah,
Yeah.
so it sounds like you were kind of running off natural talent, so to say, with a really, really strong
Mm,
aerobic base. Would you say that
mm.
was kind of what it was like through your junior years?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I carried on running. I think I only ran once a day because I was swimming every evening. Yeah, and by the time I got to secondary school, I'm pretty sure I was swimming every evening. I didn't want to sacrifice my swimming to go running. So in the end, I I was going. I think I went running on Tuesdays, and then I swam every other day. And yeah, that's how it sort of started. And yeah, I was just aerobically fit from the swimming.
Okay, interesting. We're going to pause that for a moment and kind of run
Mm,
through some of the intro questions just to build a bit of a
okay.
picture of what's to come, and then we'll pick back
Okay.
up at that point. So, for you, what's been the most significant running moment so far?
Um, the most significant one, like my biggest achievement, or
Yeah, how what yeah, something that maybe it meant the most to you, or however you want to interpret that, your choice.
um, I guess probably the biggest running moment would be, going to Birmingham University. I feel like uh, that really changed running for me. I think
Yeah.
for
Okay.
sure.
Okay, nice. And for you, the next biggest goal or thing that you hope to achieve?
Oh wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to get a full-time contract and be a fully fledged runner. I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's the dream for many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Topics you feel most strongly about within the sport right now, if you've got any that come to mind.
Oh yeah. A good few.
Okay.
Don't know. I feel like the sport's in a bit of a difficult position at the minute. I feel like there's a lot of boring people at the top that don't want to see, change in the sport. So I think that's quite a hot topic. They need to make some things more exciting. And I think a really tricky one for me, I would have to go for like health of athletes. I know it happens to male athletes, but like particularly female athletes around weight and things like that. I think that's um yeah, it needs to be addressed in some form.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. A lot of work still to be done in that area for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
And for you, the number one piece of advice that you'd give your younger self?
Oh, nothing is quite as big as you think it is. It's all like you'll look back and you'll be like, wow, that felt like such a defining moment in my life when actually it really didn't matter. Yeah, just just take a step back from whatever sort of like situation you're in and just look at like the whole picture and yeah, enjoy it.
Definitely. Yep. Nothing as big as it seems. That's so true. Some excellent advice there, guys. Okay, and so now we'll pick back up where we left off a moment
Hmm.
ago. And so, obviously you've transitioned towards running. You spoke about a period kind of dabbling in triathlon and how much passion you had for swimming. What led you to then drop the swimming completely and move to running? When did that happen? And yeah, can you walk us through that?
Yeah, sure. So triathlon was going really well. I was fairly competent at triathlon, and I was able to. They do it very differently now, but back then they used to have like a squad, like a GB squad, of sort of athletes that they had sort of like on the program, and then they would pick athletes from the program to compete for GB at whatever championships were coming up. And I got invited to the testing day or testing weekend. And we did like a swim trial and a run trial. We did some like interviews and like a group task and that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was pretty intense. I was pretty young at the time as well. And I was like, whoa, this feels like a lot. Um, yeah, it was kind of crazy. And I didn't get selected for the team, and that was absolutely fine. I'm pretty sure I was one of the younger ones there. Like the other people that were there were like George Taylor Brown, Sophie Caldwell, like all these people that are now. They obviously took them on, and I was like, yeah, fair play, like good decision.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and I can't even remember the boys that were there, but yeah, like I remember thinking, wow, this is quite a big deal. And one of the things that they had said to me at the end of that was like, your swimming isn't strong enough. You'll need to swim more. And at this point, I was like, okay, the only way to swim more is to swim like before school, um, and stuff like that. And at this point, I want to say that I was 15, like going into my like GCSE year, and my mum and dad were just a bit like, we don't quite feel comfortable with that because you're going to need your GCSEs for the rest of your life. Like, you're going to need them to go to college. You're going to need to go to university, or like if you want to go to university, like that kind of thing. So they weren't quite comfortable with that. So we were just like, oh, we'll do what we can. Um, so yeah, and then to be honest, like running was just the one thing that I was better at. The other things I just wasn't. I hated cycling, like hated it, like with a passion. And I'm so clumsy. And to this day, I'm still so clumsy. And I just fell off all the time. And that obviously is quite miserable. And yeah, like I say, I was a tiny child. And then I think when I was 15 through to like 17, I did so much growing, and I've actually got really, like, I'm quite tall now. Like I'm taller than both my mum and my dad. But at the time I was a little dot really. And I think because I was growing so quick, I just couldn't coordinate my limbs.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah, and I just fell off my bike all the time, and I just hated it. So yeah, and my running coach at the time, he had said that he didn't want me to run multiple, like he didn't want me running every day of the week, because of the impact that it might have on, your growing joints and that kind of thing. So it just made sense to carry on doing all the cycling and the swimming. And so yeah, I did. And I kind of knew my last season of triathlon, I knew that at the end of it, that was going to be my last season. I knew that after that, I wasn't going to continue that, and I was probably just going to explore running a bit more, because that's the one I enjoyed the most. I just used to wait for the run to come, and then I'd be like, right, okay, I can go now.
Nice. Okay, so it sounds like, it definitely was the right decision for sure. And I mean, your results these days show that, it definitely was. And so you mentioned
Thanks.
how going to Birmingham was kind of a significant moment for you. Can you
Mm.
talk us through kind of what changed when you went to university?
Yeah, I'd had a pretty turbulent time prior to going to university. I also went to university a year late. I went like a year later, so I was 19 when I went. I'd just been injured. I'd been so injured. I got so sort of the year before most people go to university. I'd got like an Achilles problem in the sort of like tried to manage that. And then everything kind of, I was kind of playing catch up with myself, and I just started hitting training really hard. And then I was 17, 8, because I'm 18 in May. I was 18 in the May, and I'd I'd perhaps put on a little bit of weight, and then I did the typical thing, and I started messing around with my food and started training really hard. We were doing really intense track sessions. I was panicking that I wasn't fit, so I was like, "Oh, just run as fast as I can every time I go for a run." Just the typical. It was the perfect storm for a stress fracture. Obviously, at that point, I had no idea what a stress fracture was, so I wasn't even on my radar. I also had low vitamin D, which, living in Manchester, being as fair skinned as I am, vitamin D is always going to be a problem. But at that point, I had no idea. So, yeah, so got an injury, and then, yeah, just really struggled to come back from it. I got a job working in an office. So I was in an office. I think I worked like 7:30 till 3 or 2:30. I don't know. I started early and I finished early. But I think doing that and trying to train, I was trying to go out a lot as well, which doesn't help. Um, so yeah, I just really struggled to get any consistency with my training. So by the time we went to university, I was running once every 3 days, like 20 minutes. Just we stripped it right back to like the literal core of running. So yeah, and then I think I just stuck. I'd always done 3 sessions, and I just stuck to 2 sessions for ages, months and months and months, because we were just being really, really careful. And then yeah, just being in that environment, I just got so excited about running. It was such an easy environment for that to happen. At the time, like Hannah England was still running, like Claire Tarpley, Jules. There was a whole elite group that were all full-time athletes, and it was like, wow, this is so cool. And obviously the team was really good as well, like good at cross country. The guys' team was great. The girls' team was great. It was just, a whole great thing, really.
Yeah, no, definitely, environment really does make such a difference. And, having
Mm.
people around who are doing the same thing as you, it kind of can create that sort of, yeah, you can do this, let's do this kind of atmosphere. But gosh, yeah, I think, a lot of people, myself included, have been there in that injury cycle, the panic to regain fitness. There are no shortcuts. That definitely is for sure. Okay, no, so there's a couple of things I wanted to kind of touch on. So you mentioned about vitamin D, and also kind of maybe a red S situation, and also Achilles issues. So, firstly, have you had any further injury issues, or kind of was that just a one-off period?
Yeah, no, I've had my fair share of injuries. Yeah, I'm fully fledged in the stress fracture club. I'm now on number three, so um it's not great. We move. Achilles injuries are pretty just consistent. They're just kind of always there. Just reminding me that they're there. And then I've had a little bit of issues with like SI joint dysfunction as well, which I had at university when I was at Birmingham. That sort of flared up a couple of times. And then, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay,
I think
what's the
that's
sort of
it.
joint issues in relation to? Is that something that you've got much control over, or?
Yeah, so basically, it's all because I was playing football when I was at school, and I went to kick the ball and just tore my hip flexor. Um, yeah, I'm terrible. I was terrible at football. I hated it. Just putting my leg in for like a thing, no, big no for me. So yeah, kicked the ball and I was hobbling around for ages. I couldn't walk because it was like I had my school bag on and it would yeah. Oh, it was a whole thing. And then because of that, on my right side, I have like a tilt, like an anterior tilt of like my pelvis, but it's just on the right side. And that just means that it's like I end up arching my back and then everything just gets a bit angry sort of in the hip area. The piriformis gets inflamed and all that kind of stuff. It's fairly easy to maintain if I'm maintaining it. But at the time I didn't realize that's what was happening. And I mean some of it was my fault as well. I would do, because it's always like you warm up and you warm down. It's two up, two down, isn't it? Like that's just what everyone does. And I got a little bit lazy when I was at university and I would just do like, oh, a mile and a half or 1.75, because that's how far my house was from where we were doing the session. And I'd get to Friday evening and I'd top up my mileage for the week, do a Monday to Sunday week, but I'd top up my mileage because Saturdays were always a really big day. And Sundays were always a really big day. So I was like, I can't fit any more mileage in to either of those 2 days. And for a couple of weeks, I'd just go out on a Friday evening. It'd be like 9:30 in the evening. And I'd like stroll out my bedroom and I'd be like, well, for a run. And they were like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, I'm like 4 miles short for the week. So I've got to go and do them. Um, I mean, yeah, I don't know why. Don't know why I thought 4 miles was going to make all the difference, but yeah. So a bit of yeah, that was kind of my fault. I can't blame that on anyone else. And then my first stress fracture was in my tibia. Can't remember which one. And then I went to America. Wasn't running very well. I came home from America and smashed training like as much as you can. I just went all in because I got back in June. I was like, I've got loads of time. I can hit the end of track season. Was just training way harder than I was in America. Got another stress fracture. And then so that was June, July 2019, I
Yep,
think.
2019.
Um yeah, and then stress fracture number three was my second metatarsal um, in 2021. Combination of things. The gyms were shut, so I wasn't lifting any weights, so my bone density did decrease, and I wasn't cross training. Wasn't doing any cross training, which I do a lot of. My program has a lot of cross training in it, and I was just running more than normal. And then some of it, because I do a lot of rehab for my Achilles, it means that my calves are obviously quite strong because of that. And because I wasn't able to get in the gym and use the weights that I was using, um, it basically changed the way that I was planting my foot on the ground because my legs weren't strong enough to run the way I normally run. So there was more force going through the second metatarsal because it's quite an uncommon one to get because hardly any impact goes through it. So that one was I was pretty annoyed about that one. I was ready. I threw in the towel with running at that point. I was like, yeah, I'm not running anymore. Done with
Oh,
that.
wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And obviously it was super hard to get appointments at that point because we were in a lockdown. Yeah. I was in a pretty bad I was in a bad place. Yeah.
Gosh, yeah, no, it can be so, so tough having injuries. And I can imagine with lockdown as well, that does leave you with very, very
Mm,
little to do. And, when you say throw in the
hmm
towel, did you kind of leave sport or did you leave running or how long did that go on for?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I don't want to run competitively again. I was like, I'm not interested. I wanted to run just to run, to keep fit, to keep social. I think running has been such an amazing thing in my life, and I'll always be super grateful for it. And it's something that I hope I'm always doing because there's so many things that are good for you because of running. Yes, like the physical activity is great, but the people that you meet, a lot of my closest friends are runners. So yeah, I will always want to be running. So yeah, I was just ready to walk away because I was like, oh, stuff this. um, so yeah, it was. I mean, I think I had like 9 weeks of no. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't cycle. Obviously, swimming pools were shut anyway. I literally couldn't do anything. I was just like, oh, wow, this is peak.
Yeah, that is really tough.
Yeah,
That is really tough.
yeah. It was
Oh.
it was rough. Yeah,
And what then, I guess, obviously you do compete now. So what changed?
yeah. Um, just being in Teddington, I genuinely, it's the main reason I got back into running because the community here, the running community particularly, it's just great. And there's so many people, and there's so many people in a similar position to me that are older, working, have been running for a long time. We have other things going on outside of running, and that's not like a dig at anyone, and it's not just students that are here. Is kind of what I mean, where like things are just you're just a bit different. Whereas once you're working and stuff, you kind of have to fit it all in around all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was just again, like I say, I was just running for the social aspect. I was doing a lot of running with Sarah Aston, and it was. I sort of got back. I was out for quite a while, so I think I started running again in like mid-March. I was just doing bits and bobs here and there, and then Sarah was getting ready for her track season, so I'd head down to the track and I'd just pace her for a few reps, and I'd just run as far as I could, and then I'd stop. And then I'd have a couple of minutes break, and then I'd help her out the next time I could. So yeah, and then just being around the runners and being at the track, you just like, oh, actually, yeah, I quite like this.
Yeah.
maybe I'll think about it. So yeah.
No, that's such a lovely way back in, and it's nice to kind of do
Mm,
it from a place of, I guess, contentment and, complete freedom
mm,
to do that. So, no, that's really great to
yeah.
hear. And before we kind of move more on to the now, just want to touch on kind of the America experience. You mentioned, you went out there for a year. What kind of motivated
hmm
that? What motivated you to come back?
Yeah. So it's so funny because I think that if you'd spoken to me in my first year of university, I was like, I'm not going to America. Don't want to go to America. Not for me. Don't fancy it. And I was like, big, hard, no, absolutely not. And I don't know why. It just never appealed to me. I'm a bit of a homebody. And at that point, I just love like I'm very close with like my home, like my school friends and my family and stuff like that. So I was like, no, don't want to move that far away. Don't want to do any of that stuff. And And yeah, I guess you get to the point when you're at university and you're like, wow, like I have a decision to make here. Do I go out into like the real world or do, I find something else? And then it was actually my housemate at the time. She was like, yeah, so I've been speaking to this school. And I was like, oh, cool. Just that's something that she wanted to do. And she's like, oh yeah, I've been speaking to San Francisco. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Um, so yeah, and then they were running so well. They just they got second at nationals in the cross country. And I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. So yeah, I got in contact with them. They didn't really have any middle distance athletes. They were looking to grow their middle distance team at this point. Or like I think they had a couple of 800-meter athletes, but they didn't have any 15 like core 15 athletes. So yeah, I kind of went in like I was going to be their miler basically. So yeah, that's what happened. And then 3 weeks before I'm due to fly out to San Francisco, Helen, the head coach, announces that she's moving to Oregon. She's not coming to She's not going to be in San Francisco. I was like, oh, that's like a pretty big change. Okay, like yeah, all right. And then it gets to like 4 days before I'm due to fly out, and Benji, the assistant coach, also admits that he's leaving. He's going to Boise. By this point, I'm in a complete meltdown. Like I am crying on the couch with my mom, like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? And at the time I'd been messaging, me and Philly Bowden had been messaging because she'd also signed with San Francisco. And she replies and says, I'm going to Oregon with Helen. And I was like, oh no, this is just this is just too much. And my mum then says to me, bless her soul. She's like, why don't you just ask if you can go to Oregon? And I was like, Mum, Oregon don't want me. And obviously at the time, like they had Jess Hull, who just won NCAA's 1500. So I was like, they do not need me. She's like, oh, well, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I was like, Mum, I'm not asking if I could go to Oregon. If they wanted me or if they could take me, she already would have done because she was taking Philly. So yeah, by this point, I'm just in. My mum's like, you don't have to go. And I was like, I do. um, so yeah, then Jack Rowe reached out to me and he was like, Megan, I've heard you're in a bit of a panic. It'll be all right. Don't worry. Just get on the plane. You'll be fine. Um, so that was it was a pretty intense time. And then I got there and it was great. It was great. Don't get me wrong, loved it. But the thing that nobody tells you about America is like those first 2 weeks are so hard. That you are so lonely. You are so exhausted. You're in this completely different country. Like I'm walking around the supermarket looking for a duvet. Well, they don't have duvets in America. It's called something else. It's called a comforter. And I'm wandering around this supermarket and I'm on the phone to my friend who's in New Mexico, like trying to figure out how to buy things in the supermarket, which sounds really stupid. Like, obviously, they're an English speaking country, like, just get a grip. But obviously, you were like, when I arrived, it was like middle of the night at home, and I was exhausted from traveling. I couldn't speak to anyone at home. So, yeah, I was like, wow, this is really tough. And then you go in and you get all your kit, and then they do like all the media stuff, like they take your pictures, and then you have to go and get all the medical tests done, and you're sitting waiting for these medical tests for hours and hours. And yeah, the whole thing, it's just you're waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning because I was on the West Coast. So yeah, the whole thing was quite an ordeal to start with. So anyway, the new coach comes in. I think he's great. I'm like, yeah, this coach is great. I think we're gonna be just fine. Um, and then what happens? My Achilles started to flare up quite badly in the cross country season. For some reason, I thought my Achilles would forget that it was annoyed because I was on a different continent. So stopped doing my rehab. But obviously, that wasn't going to end well. Yeah, so I got an injury like over Christmas. I pretty much didn't run at all over Christmas. Went back out there in the January, and indoors just starts. It's as soon as you get there, Like I'd been back in the country 3 days and they flew us to Texas for a race. I'm like, yeah, severely jet lagged. I've not ran really for 6 weeks, and they take us to Texas Tech to do a mile race. And I was like, right, okay, yeah, sure. I've not ran around a track since I left. I've got to put spikes on. And then after the race, my coach was like, that's a great race considering the altitude conversion rate. I was like, excuse me? I was like, what? He said, you didn't know it was at altitude. I was like, well, you didn't tell me. How did you expect me to know? So yeah. So that was the thing. And then from then on, I was just playing catch up. I then also got the flu. Oh, I was so unwell, so unwell. I didn't get out of bed for like four days, I want to say. Like I couldn't even walk to the toilet. Like I couldn't stand up straight. I was texting my mom, like, Mom, I just want to come home. um, so yeah, that was pretty rough. And I remember the first run I did go for. We started, everyone had a track session, and the coach was like, oh, just jog down to the track, see how you're feeling. And I did like an 8:40 mile and then just threw up everywhere. And I was like, oh man, I'm really unwell. Yeah. So then I got to the track and he was like, I was like, I can't run back. Like, I just can't. He's like, okay, well, you just wait there for the track session to be over and then I'll drive you back. I was like, all right, okay. So then he's like, oh, do you mind like coming in for a chat? We'll just chat about how you feel. And I was like, yeah, sure. So we sit down, have a meeting. He's like, right, so I'm going to need you to race next week. I was like, excuse me? Yeah. So from then on, my body was just like, no, this is just not happening. So yeah, it rolls around to track season and I'm just not very fit, just through and through, not very fit. Said to the coach, I was like, I'm a bit worried, because I'm not very fit. And he's like, no, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. I was like, right, okay. Are we going to do any hard training sessions, or is everything going to be this easy? He's like, well, no, you just need to trust me. It's going to work. I was like, right, oh, okay. And now I wasn't allowed to run quicker than 73 seconds for 400, right? And to get to regionals, you had to run around 4:25 ish, because it's a cutoff of how many athletes. So it was roughly around there. And I was like, right, so I need to run 71s back to back, but you won't let me run quicker than 73. I'm not really sure how this is gonna add up. And he kept going, you just need to trust me, you just need to trust me. And I'm thinking, right, okay, sure. I mean, I know my own body, I know this isn't gonna work, but sure, if you tell me it's gonna, let's keep going. Um, so yeah, and it's not going at all. I think I can't even run break 4:30. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like the last 2 years, I feel like I could have done that in the depths of winter. I could have, yeah. So by this point, I'm in a pretty annoyed state. And we fly out to a race, and it was ridiculous. We went to Drake Relays, which is in, I think it's Iowa, which from San Francisco is miles away. We'd been traveling the whole day. The whole day we'd been on a flight. There was like a 2 hour time difference, like a 6 hour bus journey. The whole thing was just, we were all exhausted when we got there. So I run this 1500, and tactically I was great. Tactically made all the best decisions. Went into the bell, moved into the lead, and then finished last in the race. Which, I was like, I didn't have the legs. So yeah, all the races carry on going the rest of the evening. And I'm thinking, like, I'm really looking forward to this chat that he's going to have with me after this race, this post-race debrief, because I didn't make any mistakes. There'd been a couple of races where I'd made a couple of mistakes, but I was like, I didn't make any mistakes in that race. I just can't wait to see what he's going to say. So I'm waiting in this hotel lobby. By this point, I think it's like 11 o'clock in the evening. Like, it's pretty late. And so we're sitting in this hotel lobby, and he was like, so what do you think went wrong? And I was like, I just don't have the legs right now. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, so I think you're too heavy to run fast. So, and I was like, Oh, that's an interesting thought. He's like, yeah, you looked like you really wanted to go, but you're just carrying too much weight around the track. I was like, right, okay then. I was like, sure, yeah, if that's what you want to go with, yeah. So then he pulls me out of the relay. I'm supposed to be doing a leg in the DMR, pulls me out the relay team, pulls the 4x4 girls out of their relay to like swap all the teams round. And I go back up to my room and I'm like, yeah, tell one of the girls who's on the 4x4 team. And she was livid. She was fuming. She was like, he can't say that to you. And I was like, no, you're right. Like, he can't. And yeah, we were, in at that point, I just like burst into tears. Like, I was so upset. And obviously, everyone at home is asleep because it's like nighttime at home. It's so, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was it it kind of was even worse because I had confided in him in the cross season that I was concerned about my weight. Not in the sense that like the start of the cross season had been difficult. I hadn't raced very well. And I was like, I just don't really feel very confident in myself. And that often translates to how I don't race confidently if I'm not confident in me. Um so I'd confided in him that I was always, because I mean, when you watch NCAA cross, like a lot of those girls they're not well. Like, it can't be put any other way. Like when I was there, I was running against Ali O, and obviously she's now been very vocal about the problems that she's having. But everyone thought she was amazing. Ali O was like the person. She was absolutely smashing it. So yeah, you did. I felt massive. I felt huge, and I confided in him that that's how I was feeling. So for him to then throw that back to me, I was quite upset. So yeah, and then we got to we had a weekly meeting. So every Monday I went in for my meeting with him, and I watched the DMR, and the girl that he'd put on my leg of the DMR, she ran the 1200. She actually went through 1200 meters slower than I had ran in my 1500 the day before. And I went to him, I said, are you going to admit that that happened and that you shouldn't have taken me out of that team? And he just laughed at me. And I was like, right, no, you're not going to admit that. And he'd brought that athlete, he'd come from Boise and he'd brought that athlete with him. So she was just kind of always, here. We were all here and she was here. She was just more important. And I was just like, you're not going to admit that, I could have ran quicker than that. And he was like, he just laughed at me. And I was like, right, okay, that's where we are. Um, yeah, so that was quite a lot to deal with at this point. And then there's a couple of weeks left of the season, and he then said to me, if you run within a second of the regionals time, I'll take you to the last chance meet. At the, whenever it was. It was a couple of weeks ahead of this. So I was like, right, okay. So we went to Portland to race, and that was my best race of the season. And I wouldn't say it was a great race. I think the pacemaker had gone out really fast. And the pacemaker was actually one of his athletes. She was a pro running for him. So yeah, she proper messed up the pacing, like properly. So yeah, and I got within, I think I was within 2 seconds of the time. And then I'm looking forward to hearing what he's gonna say now. So we're standing at the side of the track and he's like, yeah, so I've got a decision to make of who I'm gonna take to the last chance meet. And I was like, oh right, okay, cool. Sure. I mean, I kind of pretty much did everything you asked me to do, but yeah, whatever. And he goes, I have to choose between you and Scott, who is now my partner. And it was quite widely known within the team that we were dating. So yeah, he said, I have to decide whether I'm going to take you or Scott to the last chance meet next weekend. I'm standing there like, all right, that's nice. Thank you for that. Um, so yeah, at that point, I was like, wow, this is not a nice person. Like he is not. That's not a nice thing to do to someone. It wouldn't be. hard for them to book another seat on the plane. He could take both of us if he wanted to. There's no reason that he can't take both of us. Yeah. Yeah.
So did that sort of lead you to kind of leave earlier than you
Yeah.
went? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, initially I was only going to do 1 year. And then for the cross season, I was running really well. So I was like, yeah, I'll come back for a second year. And the coach had asked me if I would come back because we were really getting on to start with. And I was one of the only people with eligibility left that was coming back. So in the cross season, he was like, I'm building next year's team around you, that you're my best athlete that's coming back. So I'm going to build this team around you. And I was like, well, okay, sure. It's like every recruit visit that came in, he would then ask me my opinion on how good they would be for the team. And so yeah, it did change very, very quickly. And I don't really know what changed it. I don't know if it's because I questioned him as much as I did. But I've never really been like just a yes person. I'm very much a why person. Like, why am I doing this? I need to know why so that, I can get the most out of myself. So yeah, that at that point I kind of knew that I probably wasn't going to go back. We did have another meeting, and he was he basically was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. We have to pay your scholarship if you want to come back. But there's like no need if you don't want to. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So, and that was, I think that was like, I want to say that was like a week before I flew home. So I was like, wow, yeah, I now have like the rest of my life to think about, which I hadn't thought about. Um, so yeah,
Gosh,
that's
yeah,
where
I
we are.
think you shed so much light on kind of the NCAA system there because I think it's
Yeah.
quite well known, it can be a really dark place and it can be a really amazing
Yes.
place, but you often hear, oh, it can
Mm-hmm.
be a nightmare without hearing the kind of specific details and kind of how cutthroat and how
Mm.
much of a business kind of deal it really is out there.
Yeah.
And no, so
Mm.
I'm sorry that you had that experience. And I guess if we talk about weight a little bit, because you mentioned that earlier before as well,
Mm.
did that kind of affect your mindset a lot, or did you kind of manage to stay strong and keep on a healthy note?
Um, yeah, I did manage to stay strong. By this point, I think I just turned 23. So I was because I'd done my undergrad and then obviously I'd taken the year out. I was a little bit older. And to be honest, I was kind of, and this is going to sound really weird, I was grateful that he said it to me because I thought I do have a pretty thick skin. So I was like, yeah, say it to me because you're not going to send me into a spiral of not eating. Whereas if you're saying that to a freshman, someone who's 18 away from home for the first time, the the implications can be massive. And I just was like, no, one of the things that was really important to him was accountability. Like if you mess something up, like be accountable for it, like be accept it. And I totally agree that is a great attribute to have as an athlete and just in life in general. Like if you make a mistake, just own up to it and move on. Um, so then for him to not be accountable for the fact that his training wasn't working for me, I was like, what is this about? Like, yeah, so yeah,
Yeah. Wow, no, that's really great to hear there though.
yeah. But yeah, no, didn't I was very bitter for a very long time and I was very angry. And I did really struggle to move past it, but not in terms of I stopped eating or anything like that. It didn't have that kind of effect on me. I was just like, yeah, I'm just angry at what happened. And then obviously after we got back, a couple of months after we got back, we go into this pandemic and my phone is reminding me of what I was doing this time last year. And it was like somewhere I was like in LA or I was in Portland and Seattle, doing all these really cool things. And I was like, and now I'm sitting at home. I was actually working for the NHS at the time. So I was going to work most days. So yeah, I was just like, wow, how quickly your life just changes.
Gosh, yeah, no, that's so much. And yeah, so I suppose actually we're getting a bit short on time now. So maybe if you want to touch on kind of very briefly what the transition period was like, just leaving kind of the all-in runnings, everything, and going into work as you just mentioned. And then we kind of jump into the now.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously, like I say, I got back and I got a stress fracture. So running kind of just stopped. And it wasn't that I was so motivated at that time. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to just prove. I was really angry, so I just wanted to prove him wrong, that it was his fault. Um, so yeah, but then obviously it just wasn't the right time. Like, and I totally get that. Like I even if I had been able to race, I don't know if it had gone very well because mentally I just wasn't in the right place to be racing. Um, so yeah, then just sort of like started building back slowly. I was my coach Paul Roden. He was just like, yeah, let's just focus on enjoying it. You had a great couple of years before you got there, so like let's just get back to that really. Yeah, and then the pandemic hit, so running pretty much stopped, didn't it? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Gosh, I know that is unfortunate timing, to have one
yeah,
change and then another, crazy global situation going on as well. It's definitely not ideal. And did
no.
you, I guess, find anything in particular that helped you move through that time or kind of looking back and reflecting?
Um, I don't really know. I don't know. Nothing in particular. I think I was just so motivated because it was just like I just was so desperate to prove him wrong. And like the 2 years that I did, like my second and third year at Birmingham, I was running so well. I I'll admit it that I went to America and I was a little bit too cocky for myself. I was like, yeah, like oh, that'll be easy. Like I'll easily go to regionals. I'll definitely be going to nationals. Wow, I was wrong. But yeah, because I'd had 2 really good years, I kind of did just feel a bit invincible when it came to the 1500. I was like, yeah, I can do that easy. So yeah, I was just so motivated.
No, no, that's really good that you've got the kind of the motivation because that is something that, definitely does have to come from within. And I guess now,
Mm,
1500 was definitely what you were doing more
mm,
during your time in America at university. But I mean, you won the 3K in Armagh, you dropped to 1534 at Podium Leicester, sixth at
yeah.
Liverpool. Kind of what's your current situation and, yeah, what's kind of the journey like these days?
Um, so the goal was very much like stay at the 1500. Like I feel like the 1500 is just the dream event in my opinion. Um, but it is funny, like I think I am a 3K runner. I think that is my distance. Probably one of the reasons I love Anna so much. But yeah, as a kid, that 3K was what I was good at. 3K is what I did. But I do always think that's because wasn't really doing any track specific stuff. I was just quite an aerobic athlete. So yeah, and then we just always work in the winter to improve my 5K. I'm pretty terrible at cross country. Like I kind of hate it a lot, really. I hate it. So the progression of road races has just been a dream for me because it means I've got something to do in the winter that doesn't mean doing cross country because it's just not my strength at all. Like I just struggle with the grass in general. So yeah, no, I feel yeah, I enjoy the road. I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, if you're not vibing with the grass, get on the roads. It's the
Yeah.
only way to go.
I know it's just it never really used to be an option unless you were doing 10Ks, which like at the time, like at university and stuff. And I guess I did always fall into the Liverpool trap at uni because Liverpool at Birmingham is just so important. Like I can't explain it. And like it's not from the coaching staff, it's not from Luke or Dean or anyone like that. It's the athletes, and even it's the athletes that have no possibility of making the team are still like Liverpool. And I don't know why. It's just, and then obviously like, we have in Birmingham, we had a huge night out after Liverpool. Like, it was one of the biggest nights out of the year. So just the whole thing like you start in September and everyone's talking about Liverpool. That's what everyone's talking about. So, and I definitely fell into that trap of yeah, I've got to be fit for Liverpool. Um, so yeah, I'm very glad that road racing has grown because, or like 5K road racing has grown because it means there's something for me to do in the winter. The plan is to do a 10K. I was gonna do one last winter. I think I got a cold like the week before, and I was just like, no, honestly, any excuse not to run a 10K. Because pacing is not a strong suit of mine. So a 10K, I fear I would need to pace properly.
Yeah, 10K, I feel like, if it goes wrong, you're in there for the long haul. So
Exactly.
no
And I
need to
think,
find out.
yeah, when you come from like the 1500, everything feels slow in comparison. Like I think that was also one of my biggest problems with cross country. I think one year I did Liverpool, and I was quite fit. I was feeling quite good, and I got to like the first corner, and I was in like fourth, and I was looking around thinking, "Oh, I've made a huge mistake here. This is a cataclysmic mistake that I've just made." But I was in it then, so I was like, oh, "I'm here now," because everything just feels so much slower than the 1500, but not slow enough.
Yeah, it's
So
yeah. I'm personally not really a great pacer either, so I don't know how
yeah.
some people do it. But we did actually have a listener question on what it's like pacing. So
Yeah, I mean, I do like I'm good at pacing when I'm like pacing a race. I feel like I'm quite good at that. And I've definitely got better as I've got older. Like at Birmingham, I wasn't allowed to lead track reps because I was so terrible at pacing. So I would go out and be like, yeah, this is the right pace. This is the right pace. We get to like 400. I'm like, well, this is really not the right pace. But to me, it felt, and I think because I was just slowly getting better and better whilst I was at Birmingham, I just never really knew how fit I was, and I was just fitter than I'd ever been. So I was like, everything just feels really easy. Um, so yeah, I think, yeah, that's. I think I am much better at pacing now, but yeah, I am a believer in time in the bank.
yeah.
So
Nice. Yeah, no, I can so relate to you there. Always feels easy to start out with. And
Mm.
so what is a typical training week like for you? And is there anything that you've changed in kind of recent years?
Um, yeah, I have fully committed to the cross training, which I for a long, long time just tried. We would do cross training to build up the training, and then I would really push going back into doing double runs and more running. Whereas now I'm just fully fledged on the cross training, like yeah, cross train most days. So like I've rarely do two runs in a day. I'll do like my main run in the morning or session, and then I'll cross train in the evening. Um, if I've got a hill session, I will run in the evening because I find that a cross train doesn't flush my legs the same as a run. I don't know why. I don't. It's probably mental, but if I don't run after doing a hill session, I'm in a world of trouble come the long run on a Sunday, and nobody enjoys that. Um, so yeah, I feel like my training is quite, I'm going to say flexible, in the sense like, so my group at home actually train on a Monday and Wednesday, which is out there. I know
Bit
lots of people
rogue.
hate it. Yeah, very rogue. But what was really funny is at the end of my first year at Birmingham, they changed to Monday, Wednesday as well. So I then was just Monday, Wednesday at home, Monday, Wednesday at uni. So yeah, I love it. Monday, Wednesday is a vibe, let me tell you. It's like Monday would typically be like K reps, mile reps, 1200 reps. We would do them on the road at home. And then this was at the time that I'd be training in the evening and now train in the morning. But in the winter, I'll happily go on a Monday. I really like doing Saturday, Sunday, Monday as hard days because I think it gets you really fit, but it also makes you do the long run controlled, and it also means you are running on tired legs on a Monday. So one, you can actually run that quick, so it kind of protects you in that sense. And if you're running on tired legs and you run a good session, you're like, oh, imagine how I'm going to feel if I've not done a long run the day before. Yeah, so it's then normally it's like a 30-minute double that I'll do normally on the cross trainer. And then Tuesdays would be like any Tuesdays would be sort of like between 40 and 50 minutes, one run, one cross trainer. And weights. I'll do a weights program as well. Like nothing crazy. I'm not like I am strong, but I'm not lifting massive weights. It's sort of like, yeah, to get a bit of power, but mainly just to stop injuries.
So not challenging for a weightlifting in the Olympics.
No, I have started doing a clean, and that is terrifying. Genuinely, completely terrifying.
Oh
So,
gosh.
and then yeah, it's getting there. We're getting better at it, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
They do look risky.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's not too bad. But yeah, we're getting there. Wednesdays would be again like I'll do like a 30-minute cross train or run. Well, mostly cross train, and then it'll be a session, and it'd either be like a long tempo, so 30 to 35 minutes sort of straight, and then or a short tempo and like track reps, whether that be fours or threes or like 5, 3, 2, or like that kind of thing. Thursdays again would be two runs, 40 to 50 minutes, or like one run, one cross train, and another weight session. Friday would be a rest day. And then Saturday would normally be hills. We'll do a hill session in the morning, and then an easy run in the evening. And then Sunday would be like I'm up to like 15 miles now from a long run. But in the winter. But in the summer, I do move to Tuesday, Thursday because that's what everyone around here is doing. And 1,500 meter track reps on your own are that's a big fat no from me.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have company, especially on the track. For
Yeah,
sure.
it'll be a similar. I'll do track on a Tuesday, like everyone does, and then like longer reps on a Thursday with maybe a bit of speed at the end. And then yeah, Saturday back on the track.
Nice. A nice all-rounded program. And in terms of that
Yeah.
split between the cross training and running, do you have a rough
Mm.
kind of like percentage time on legs, time on bike, time in water or whatever?
Not specifically. I think this winter, sort of my mileage got up to, I think on a really big week, it went to 65, which is quite high. I don't really know. I feel like that happened because the gym was short for a couple of days or something. So I did a couple of extra runs, but it's normally between 55 and 60 miles a week. And then the rest will be cross training. And it's normally, yeah, a couple of hours of cross training because I guess I do between 30 and 40 minutes of cross training pretty much every day, apart from, yeah, Friday and Sunday. Um, but no, we don't aim for anything like specific on that. It's normally just, yeah, yeah. And if it's, to be fair, if the weather's bad, I will do more cross training. That's a really
Definitely.
terrible thing to say, but like sometimes in the winter, if I'm feeling good, then I will go out for a double run, and it's fine. It's as long as it's not like every single double that I go for is a run. But there was a couple of times where my coach said, "Oh, I'd done like a really good tempo in the morning." He's like, "Oh, you can go and do a run this afternoon if you want," and it'd be like absolutely throwing it down, and it'd been throwing it down all day, and I'm like, "Yeah, I got wet this morning, so I don't need to get wet again. I'll just go to the cross trainer." But yeah, and also depends what I'm watching on the cross trainer. Because if I'm watching something that I really want to watch, I don't. If I'm watching something on a cross trainer, I don't watch it at any other point. I only allow myself to watch it on the cross trainer. So it motivates me to go because then I'm like, oh yeah, that means I can watch that if I go cross training.
That's a good
So
tip. That's a very good tip.
oh, it's great. And you've got to watch something fast paced. You can't be watching like a slow program. It's got to be quite fast paced, yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, lap that one
Yeah.
up, guys, if you're struggling for motivation with the cross
Yeah.
training. And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting as well. You mentioned kind of sessioning on tired legs potentially. I know some people are
Mm,
really careful about making sure they're fresh so they can get the most out of
mm.
themselves. Do you think that that's something that works better for you, or do you think that you would potentially improve at a faster rate if your legs were fresher? Or yeah, where do you stand around that?
Um, I really like the way that I do it, to be honest.
I mean, it's working.
It's what I've yeah, it's what I've done for so long, and then it's what we did at university. And then when we went to sort of one of the reasons that I really felt passionate about it at university was because when you go to box, you have to do 3 1,500 meters in 3 days. And it is rough, like it is really hard. You get to that third day and you're like, the last thing I want to do today is run a 1,500. And it's really, really tough. And I think in that instance, I don't actually think box finds the best 1,500 meter runner. I think they find the person that wins is the person that copes with the rounds the best and recovers the best. So yeah, that's what I really, because I was like, when you get to championship racing, you often you need to put your best performance out on when you're tired. So I yeah, I think I'm all for running on tired legs. Yeah, you won't get the same quality. And that's why in the summer we typically move it, because if I have like a really tough 1,500 meter session, I'm not going to be able to do that the day after running 12 miles, am I? Like, that's just, it doesn't take a genius to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think sometimes being held back in sessions is a really good thing. I think that is one of the reasons I'm running as well as I am at the minute. And Sarah Aston has been the biggest influence for me. She is she's just very controlled, and everything starts very controlled. And like by the end of the session, we can be running really, really quick. Like some of the sessions we've done, like I get back and I'm like, whoa, we were really moving in that last rep. But everything starts quite like within yourself and controlled. And I mean, one of the traps that I fell into at Birmingham, which it's nobody's specific fault, but the group was so good when I was there. Someone was always having a good day. So you had to be on your game every day. And like, even when you were having the good day, you were like, well, this is my day to be good. I'm not backing off. Like, I'm going to make them hurt because they made me hurt on Monday. Um, so you kind of just get into this whole cycle of like every single day is hard, or like every session is hard, which is 3 times a week. Um, and I definitely think the older you get, the oh bless you,
Thank you.
the older you get, you just can't do that. You can't hit 3 hard sessions a week. And a lot of the time, yeah, like when I was at university, I would typically spend between January and February not really running because I'd pick up some kind of niggle, like mainly the SI joint dysfunction, or my Achilles would flare up because you're just hitting it. Your body just can't recover, as well as the fact that you're trying to do all the social things as well whilst you're at uni, aren't you? You're trying to go on all the nights out and you're turning up to the sessions with like 3 hours sleep and you're like, I'll be fine.
Yeah. 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 The university mindset.
Oh, you want everything, don't you? You're going to do the degree, you're going to be really good at running, and you're going to go out all the time. Although I say all the time, it was not all the time at all. Like, as most university students go, I was very tame, which my course friends, and then I moved in with them in my final year, they were like, yeah, you are just so tame.
Yeah.
But when I moved in with them, that was actually when they were like, because they used to want me to go out on a Thursday if I was racing on Saturday. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, no way. Um, and then when I moved in with them, they were like, oh, yeah, we see how much you train now. And now we see why you're not going to go out on a Thursday, because you're actually trying pretty hard at this. So, yeah. But yeah, definitely one of the best things. Like, a lot of the times I'll turn up to a session and I'm like, right, okay, just start. You'll just start and you'll see how you feel. And those are often the days where I'm like, what? I'm flying today. So, yeah.
That is so true. I think there's definitely a point that as you get older, I do think I reckon around 15 is kind of the peak age for when you can absolutely hammer it, max out all the
Mm,
time, and your body will be fine. But, as you get older, it is not fine. You can't do it. Mentally,
mm.
it becomes so tough. You've got to kind of go, right, we're going to go for 70%, and that's where the
Yeah.
gains come. Would you say if you had
Yeah.
to pick a number, what would you say that you kind of aim for as a sort of an effort for reps and stuff?
I guess it really depends on what I'm doing. At this time of year, like if there's a lot of 15 work, it feels like 100% for me. some of my sessions are so brutal that I'm just like, yeah, I've got to be on it today. But then yeah, like the tempo, it does feel very controlled, which if I could go back and tell myself at 17, you will end up loving tempo, she would not have believed you because she hated tempo with a passion, like a severe passion. Like, yeah, hated it, just thought it was horrible.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually until I got to Birmingham that I actually realised I was all right at tempo. I always thought I was really rubbish at it. And then I got to Birmingham and I was like, well, actually, I'm better than a lot of people here at this tempo thing. So um yeah. Tempo, yeah, definitely say you're not hitting it. You're not hitting it too. It's not hard until like the last 5 minutes, I'd say, if you're doing like a full, if you're going all the way through. Um, hill sessions are not a strong point of mine at all. They are full send every time, even if it looks like I'm not. Yeah. And then I guess it really just depends on what time of year you're in. Like in the winter, I don't feel like you ever really, personally, I don't feel like I ever really fully go for again, unless I'm doing a hill session. I don't feel like I'm ever really like full sending it. Um,
Yeah. No,
but
it's
yeah.
important to have the variety.
Yeah, you don't want to run your race in a training session. You don't want your A plus day to be at St Mary's track on a Monday morning if you're on your own. Like you want it to come at the races. Like it is so about stacking the B plus days. If I could go back and tell myself, that'd be something I would tell myself as well. Like stack them B plus days and just keep stacking them because yeah, it's not about like the flashy training. I wouldn't say it's just about consistently hitting all of it, just everything.
Yeah. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
This comes up so much. No, consistency is absolutely
Yeah.
key.
It is. It is. We've tried it the other way and it just doesn't go. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
consistency is key.
And also, I know that you've got a job as well at the same time and stuff. So, how do you kind of balance life and running? And I know that you've got a life outside of running as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think it is hard. And I think at this, I do struggle. I struggle in the summer. Even though I wait all year for track season, I do struggle in the summer because, and it's not been too bad this year or last year because the weather's been so rubbish. But you just want to go to a beer garden with your friends and sit, and you just can't do that because people go at like lunchtime, don't they, or like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, I've still got another run to do. And you know, if you go to that beer garden, you tell yourself you're going to leave at 6 and you're going to do that second run, you're not. And it doesn't mean that you like drink, you don't have to be drinking or whatever, but you just know that that's not going to happen. So yeah, I find it hard at this time of year normally. But I think just surround yourself with other runners. Excuse me. I think one of the things that's really good about Teddington is there's so many runners. So yeah, we're kind of just all on the same cycle, same wavelength. But yeah, and then I'm very much not in my drinking era anymore. Like I'd like a drink, but I'm not like the anxiety is off the charts. So it kind of is really if I do it, it's like, wow, okay, yeah, we're gonna need a 6 month reboot here. So yeah, like I just try and keep everything in balance because running actually isn't everything. It is just running. And I think the happier you are, like the faster you're gonna be. Happy athletes are fast athletes. Like people say it time and time again. Like I'm sure you can run fast if you're not happy, but you can definitely run faster if you're happier. Um,
I
so yeah,
love
just
that.
trying to just keeping everything in balance really. And you kind of have to see running as a social thing to do. You have to see that as your social time. People always used to ask me that, like school friends used to be like, "Oh, do you not get bored?" And I'm like, "But I run with my friend and we just talk the entire time." And it's you end up with such pure friendships because you are seeing each other every day. You are telling each other so many things because there's no distractions when you're out for a run. Like you're not looking at your phone, you're not watching anything, you're just there talking to the other person. And on those session days, you can be there for like 2 hours if you're warming up, especially in once exams had finished at uni. We used to spend hours at the track just dossing around really because you can. Um, and in the winter you're doing a 90-minute long run, so the person next to you, you're talking to them for 90 minutes. Um, so yeah, just keep it all in balance, just like everything really, isn't it?
Yeah,
Although easier said
definitely.
than done.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose part
Mhm.
of balance is letting there be imbalance at different points, but overall it'll create balance. So
Exactly. It's not like, yeah, if you do have an event or an occasion, like that one double isn't going to make you a better runner. Like you can, it's just if you're missing those doubles every single week. But yeah, just enjoy yourself as much as you can because, you're not getting this time back.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important to make sure you do enjoy the process because I mean, that's
Mm,
99% of it. The outcome's
literally.
1% and you can't control it.
Yeah.
So
Nope,
no. Oh, that's great to
for
hear.
sure.
And, just, I guess, coming definitely to the end of our time now. So move on to some quick fire questions to kind of wrap up with. So, reading or watching?
Okay, I would have said watching, but I've just read A Court of Thorns and Roses series. Definitely reading. Like, you have to read that book, the first one, and your life will spiral out of control. You'll lose all control of your life because you just want to read the book. It's so, so good. So good. Yeah. I'm in it now. I'm in my romantic era. Like, I'm here.
Oh,
I've given
lovely.
up.
Page turners are the
So, yeah.
ones. Okay, might
Yes,
have to check that one
honestly.
out then. Sweet or sour?
Sweet for sure. Yeah, not a sour person at all. No.
Easy. Hot or cold?
Um, weather or what?
Yeah.
Can I have some context for hot or cold?
Or
Weather.
like feeling hot or cold, I guess. Yeah.
I'd prefer to feel cold. I hate being too hot.
Same.
And
Yeah.
I like skiing, so I love the snow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, stay in or go out?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say go out. I'm a bit of a social butterfly, so go out because I just love a good chat.
Nice. Yep.
But
Spread those wings.
I do like staying in though. I'm really torn on that one. I don't really know. I don't know.
Well, you can have an on the fence. We'll allow it. We'll allow it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Crop top or vest?
Vest for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Spikes or flats?
Oh, I'm gonna go flats because they're more versatile.
Nice. I like the thinking, like the thinking.
Yeah,
Okay. Tea or coffee?
tea, tea every day. I do drink coffee, but tea. Oh, I smash a cup of tea. I love a cup of tea. Yeah, big
Favorite
tea
type?
drinker. Yeah, Twinings, big
Okay.
Twinings fan, or Yorkshire tea. But don't come near me with a PG tips.
Keep those
No.
PG tips away. All right.
Yeah, keep them
Noted.
away.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs, 100%. Look, big
Okay.
dog lover. Yeah. I do quite like cats as well, though. Cats are they're they're needy, but they're not. But you know what I mean?
That's
Um,
true, actually.
but yeah, no, dogs, they're so wholesome. Love a dog. Dogs, yeah,
Nice.
dogs.
Okay, and finally, a special one for the upcoming Olympics. Bets on who are going to be the top three women at the in the 1500 at the Olympics.
That is tough. Well, Jess Hall, I think. Come
Yeah,
on. Sure, yeah, she's amazing.
yeah.
Faith Kipyegon, you just can't bet against her, can you? At this point.
No.
And then, oh, I don't know, one of the Ethiopian girls, maybe, or maybe I don't know, maybe Laura or Georgia would sneak something. Like
Yeah.
Laura's got a medal before, and Georgia is formidable. Like
Yeah.
she can race. So
She
yeah,
is a good racer. Yeah, she
she's
really is.
fantastic. Yeah, like mentally, just the way she is, the way she thinks about everything, she's just so there. She's just ready. So yeah, would
Yeah.
be would be cool to see that. I hope there's a Brit on the podium. That would just be a dream, wouldn't it?
It would
But
be
yeah,
cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, distance running is so strong in this country, I'd say, kind
Oh
of
my goodness,
relatively
it's gone
speaking.
mental, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Although it's super disappointing that we don't have anyone in the 5K.
It's
I feel
crazy.
really heartbroken about that. I'm gutted for Hannah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Hannah's the same age as me or a year younger than me. So like I've raced against her since we were, teenagers. And yeah, she's just watching her progression has been amazing. So yeah, I'm really, really gutted that they haven't selected her, even though she's inside the quota.
It's the whole
Yeah.
thing is very interesting. I mean, the it seems I haven't quite met anyone yet who's fully explained it all, but there's the world ranking situation. Then it's like you get an invitation, but then the government body might not accept
Mm.
it. Yeah, it's an
I just
interesting
don't think
one.
the governing body should be allowed to reject it. That's not it's nothing to do with them. Do you know what I mean? Like it actually isn't. If you've been invited by the Olympic Committee, and I get it, I'm pretty sure it's a finance thing, and I totally
Mm,
get that. And it's like, well, ask the athletes if they want to finance it themselves. So there's a lot of countries that do that. If you if you're not on the if you're not on funding in Australia, you have to pay your own way. And those athletes are happy to do that because they are going to make that back. I mean, fivefold or tenfold from their professional contracts. So yeah, they're going to do it. And I think it's the same in New Zealand as well. Like when they all go to World Cross and stuff like that, they have to pay to get there. Um, so why can't the UK do that? If they don't want, say they don't want someone like Hannah to go, they say it's okay, you can accept it if you're happy to pay, foot your bill, and you can get. She's not going to say no to that, is she?
yeah, it really is an interesting one, especially in the case of the 5,000. I mean, it's like really we're gonna send no one, so
Yeah, I
it's
know. I'm
interesting.
guessing they offered it to Megan Keith.
Oh
I
yeah.
assume that they did, and that she wants to focus on the 10. But yeah, it's really upsetting that they haven't allowed Hannah to do it, especially she's so close and she just traveled around everywhere to go and find a race to get the time. And it's like, well, yeah, no, really frustrated for her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like there is a lot of frustration and hopefully moving forwards
Mm,
there'll be, I don't know, maybe a change in kind of the way they do these things.
I really hope so. I hope like Phil Norman seems very passionate about it
Yeah.
at the moment. So yeah, I hope that the petition gets somewhere because it's so unfair on the athletes. It's just I mean, that I have to say, I was obviously at the trial, so I watched the
Yeah.
men's 3K on the Sunday. Highlight of the weekend for me, watching the four men work together like that and
Yeah.
just say, let's go and do it. Let's go and try and get the time in the championship race. Forget about who's going to win. Let's just all work together. It was so amazing to watch. And the atmosphere in the stadium, everybody knew that something was happening. And it was really, really cool. Like, definitely for me, the race of the trials. So gutted
Yeah.
that again,
Yeah.
so close yet. And then for him to list all the races that he's not been able to go to because they've not accepted an invitation.
It
It's
really is
life
crazy.
changing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is. And then considering that the reason that the times are set so quick is based on how many people are running the times.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself how many of those people that are running those crazy quick times, like how many of them are actually clean? Like,
Mm,
even just was it yesterday or the day before? There's another marathoner. He's got 7 years, and
yeah.
they are dropping like flies at the minute, which is kind of damning for the sport. But at the same time, like let's like catch as many as you can. I don't care how the sport looks. I'd rather catch them and it gives other people the opportunities that they deserve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, firstly with kind of the Phil Norman thing and that race in particular, it's like I think what's
Mm,
lacking in the sport, why it lacks viewers and interest, is it doesn't have the continuity of team. It's individual athletes, no one knows who they are. They come, they go. There's nothing to
mm,
follow. There's no show. There's nothing for a crowd to get behind. That's the sort of thing the sport should be encouraging. And yeah, it's
yeah,
like in a race you can't necessarily guarantee a time, but to be that close, it's like surely
I
that's good
know.
enough.
I know. And to say, because he was at the front for so long as well on his own, there was
Yeah.
they didn't have the wave lights, they had no proper pacemaker. Like, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was the race of the champs for me. So, yeah, to watch that
Yeah.
was it was like it gave me goosebumps watching it. I was like, wow, this is just it's so cool. And then to watch that he was so close, I was like, oh, I'm a bit heartbroken. Like
Yeah.
I don't even like. I've had a couple of conversations with him, but I don't know him personally. But even so, I still find that really, really, heartbreaking. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is. Sport is tough. It's very tough.
it's very tough. And when you do everything that you're supposed to do as well, like I'm obviously good friends with Jack Rowe, so
Yeah.
that also is extremely heart wrenching for a lot of us. And yeah, he's done everything that they've asked him to do, and then for them to select someone else, I've got in.
It
Yeah.
is. There does seem a lot of kind of questions around selection and kind
Hmm.
of how these decisions are made and who's making them and on what
Yeah.
grounds.
And they don't ever find out why. You don't ever find out, Phil Norman said that in a podcast the other day. He said, you don't find out why your appeal didn't go through. And um, Jack was saying that I think he had the minutes from the meeting, and it didn't give any. He thought it was going to be they'll talk about it and he'll find out what was said and how they came to that decision. It was he literally got does he have the time? Did he do the trial? Are we going to select him? Is he going to finish in the top 8 or something like that? And that's how. And it was just yes, no, and it was like
Gosh.
it was very, very black and white. And it was like, wow, like that's surely that's not what actually was said in the
Hmm.
meeting. Like you
Yeah.
just don't know,
Yeah.
and they don't tell you. There's no communication. Um, so yeah, no, those are probably the three well, I guess that's all the three distance runners, but those are the three that I feel most
Yeah.
gutted for, like Hannah and Jack, because I know them like quite well
Yeah.
personally, and then Phil, because yeah, that was really it was really inspiring to watch. And then for them to, I think there's a guy from British Athletics, as he said, that it's not inspiring if they don't make it out the heat. It's going to bring team morale down. Like, whoa, you could ask every athlete out there if that's the case. Guarantee, I guarantee, Josh Kerr does not care whether Phil Norman doesn't make it out the heat. Not in a horrible way, in like it's not going to
Yeah.
affect his race if he doesn't. But imagine if
Yeah.
he does. Imagine if Phil Norman, after everything, does. How much would that lift the morale?
Yeah,
Everyone would be like,
that's
"Oh,
the
that'd be
thing.
amazing!" And like, I even remember I went going back to when I was at Birmingham in my second year. We got 3 girls into the 1500 meter final, and out of everyone was like, "Oh, how cool would it be if we went top 3 in the women's 15 at box?" And everyone was looking at me and was like, "Oh dear, Megan's the weak link here." We just got back from Font. Admittedly, I was training terribly. It was awful, awful. The worst experience. Honestly, Font was traumatizing. Once I'd accepted that I was just going to get dropped, I was much happier. But there was a good week where I just cried every day because I was like, this is
Oh
miserable. I'm
man.
just having a terrible time. So everyone had seen all that training, and everyone was like, Megan is the one who let us down. And then I didn't. I finished second. Married Smith won, who was obviously on the team at the same time, and everyone was so pumped. Everyone was like, wow, like that was so amazing. And yeah, everyone was obviously really excited for Mari because she'd won, but then everyone was just like, so it was so unexpected from me that everyone was like, wow, like that was insane. Because I kind of just came from nowhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, if something like that happened, it could massively lift the team if he then makes the final.
Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
it's the unexpected and the kind of the underdogs.
yeah,
Those are the things that make the stories. Those are the things that make
yeah.
interesting kind of events and
I know. Like,
atmospheres.
who
So
said Keely was coming away with that silver medal in 2021?
yeah, exactly. Those are the exciting
As a
ones.
fan of the sport, I would never have put that silver medal on around her. Like,
No,
yes, she was
yeah.
running extremely well. Don't get me wrong. I think I don't know what she'd ran before she went to the champs, whether it was like 157 or something. I could
Yeah, I
not.
think it was a big improvement that I think when
It
she
was,
ran
but then
that.
to run
Yeah,
155
it
and
was
get the silver
crazy.
medal, like her first year of like senior racing, I think at the beginning of the year, nobody said that was going to happen. And
Yeah.
you just don't know. You don't know what athletes are going to bring when they get to the champs. You've got to give them that chance. You never know what's going to happen. Like no
Mm.
one thought Jake Whiteman was going to beat Jakob, and then he did.
Yeah, I think as well that racing and producing a time in a controlled environment are two very different things. You can be a good
Very.
racer, you can be great at following some wave lights, following a pacer, knocking off
Mm,
a certain time each lap and getting a time. But at the end of the
yeah,
day, the Olympics is a race. It's about team points, team positions, who can actually execute something that's going to bring back the most points for the country on the day.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And then as a distance runner, I'm obviously super frustrated that they're taking 5 million people for the relay.
Yes, that was
I
really
find that
interesting. Why are they taking more than are
infuriating.
selected?
I don't know. In my opinion, I was saying this for years, they should only be allowed to select athletes that are going on
Yeah,
their own right. You know, get it like a YDL where you've got a 1500 meter runner sticking a leg in the 400 because we've all been there. We've all done the 8:15 4 double on a Sunday at the
yeah,
YDL.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like it would create for like yeah, it'd be carnage, and for a lot of the people racing, they might think, oh, that's a bit too many races. But how exciting would that be if you've got like Keely'd be doing a leg, or you've got like a Jake Whiteman doing a four by
yeah,
four leg against, if he's against one of the say the four hurdlers, if his leg is against like Carsten Warholm, like how exciting would that be to watch? Like
yeah. I
the
think
dynamics of
actually,
the race would completely change, and it'd be fascinating to watch.
oh, 100%. I mean, I think it'd be so interesting if they almost turned the distance events into more of a, I don't know, maybe athletes have to race the 8, the 15, and the 3 on the same day, or multiple events over a short period of time. And I know that's not optimal for times, but from a following an athlete and a team and a watching their journey point of view, yes, that's a lot more entertaining to watch, in my opinion, because
Mm,
you can sort of get behind someone and follow them a bit.
yeah.
No,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
that would
that's
be
one of the
nice.
reasons, like something like the Super League Triathlon is
Yeah,
taken. I don't know if you're a fan, but um, yeah, it's amazing because they just go back to back to back. And it's so exciting to watch. The races are so short, they're so fast, there's so much happening. It's just
yeah,
like, wow, this is amazing. And yes, the athletes talk about how tough it is. They're like, wow, this racing, it's tough. But yeah, super exciting. It's been amazing to watch as someone who has done triathlon to
yeah.
watch like someone come in and just completely rewrite the rules. It's been fascinating to watch. It's so exciting.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's the way. And I guess with more excitement and enjoyment of watching comes more money. The athletes will be paid more. Yeah, it'll be harder, but
Mm,
when you're sat on some lovely sofa in your private manor house in, I don't know, somewhere
mm,
fancy, maybe it won't
yeah,
feel so good, so bad.
yeah, literally. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man,
For the
gosh.
sport, running is probably one of the most accessible sports. It's
Yeah,
probably the most widely competed in sport, and not necessarily competed, but how many people are doing like 10Ks and half marathons and marathons? And especially at the minute, running is a trend right now.
yeah,
But how many people running is such a big sport that why is there such a disparity in the money in it? Like, you know,
yeah.
yeah, I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
absolutely. Yeah, and it being so accessible, almost I feel like sometimes it's now becoming a bit inaccessible in some respects. The shoes,
Yeah.
the kind of nutrition.
Yes.
If you've got the money, if you're in a school where they're, starting you from a young age, you're already
Yeah.
miles ahead. And it's like this
Yeah.
is a sport, we've got a huge population. We do so well on the small pool of people who come into it. You could
Yeah.
easily engage the whole nation and
Yeah.
really kind of target or yeah, get access to loads of people really.
Yeah. Yeah. It's madness. It is
Yeah.
madness.
Oh man. Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm out here. I'm like, yeah, I've been telling you all that running is good. I've been telling you that since 2009,
yeah.
and now you're all running.
The
Everyone's
power
doing,
of social media and stuff, it's crazy, isn't it?
yeah. And the pandemic, I guess, because you couldn't go out. That was the only thing you could go
That's
out and
so
do, wasn't
true.
it?
That's
Lots of
so true.
people, uh, pandemic, pandemic runners. It's funny if I meet a runner and I'm like, "Are you a new runner or like an old runner?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Have you been doing this since you were 13, or were you older?" They're like, "Oh yeah, like I started at uni." I was like, "You're a new runner," and they're like, "Yeah, but I've been doing it for like 7 years." I'm like, "No, no, you're a new runner."
Yeah,
You've not
yeah.
been, you weren't at the cross countries when there's like 200 teeny tiny little children running around a field. You're a new runner.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? It's when you're at those kind of competitions, I don't know, what are they? The ones you do for your clubs and, various local stuff. And you
The
turn up and
leagues
there's
and
the
stuff.
under 11s. And I'm just like, oh my God, they look like they're in
I
reception.
know.
And you're
I
like,
know.
what? Why
I
was I
know.
doing that at that
I
age?
wasn't I mean, I wasn't doing that at that
No,
age.
me
Man.
neither.
I was running up and down my street. Like my mum was shouting me, "It's bedtime."
Yeah.
Like, but no, I wasn't doing a whole lot of running back then. But yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? When you see them, you're like, wow, bless,
Yeah.
that's so cute. And then you get
Yeah.
my favorite age group has got to be like the under 15 boys or the under 17 boys, because the first 20 come through looking like men. And then
Yes.
after that, it's just all these tiny little boys that haven't done their growing yet, just running through. And I'm like, it's so unfair.
Oh my gosh,
It is so
100%.
unfair.
I do think
Bless
for
though.
guys there is a time and a place where, if you going through puberty first,
Hmm.
you're going to be miles ahead of your other guys. They're fully
Yeah.
muscled up. And then there's the
Yeah.
little skinny twigs at the back and you just think, yeah, you've got no
Oh,
chance against
you've
six
got
foot.
your time will come. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Just hang in there. I
Yeah.
know it's brutal though, isn't it? It is brutal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh man. Right. I guess yeah, we're probably time's probably about to run out on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
It's been really great
Yeah.
having you on there, so thank you
Yeah.
so
Thanks
much.
so much for having me. Thanks. Thanks for asking me to come on.
No, absolutely. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. This really helps to get the content out there. And I want to make this podcast the best possible for you. So go follow Fitter, Faster, Happier on Instagram. That's Fitter, Faster, Happier to leave your questions, comments, and feedback, and for updates and guest requests. All the best for the week ahead, guys. Run happy, live happy, be happy.